Good day, folks, mates, and friends. This is Teacher Chief. You're tuned into TYC channel. Right now, we're going to be discussing a very important topic. It's a civil service exam last minute battle tips. Now, it's for everyone who's going to be taking the civil service exam, for the first time takers, the retakers, and of course, sa lahat ng mga nagkakaram at nais may pasa ang civil service na exam na ito po ay para sa inyo. Again, civil service exam last minute battle tips coming right up. Battle tip number 16, breaking down analysis and unifying synthesis. There are about 15 items within the analysis and synthesis category. Our target is 30 seconds per item. Reading comprehension is the skill being tested by analysis and synthesis questions. Exam tip: do not confuse analysis with synthesis. Analysis covers the breakdown details of answers to questions of what, how, why, where, and the likes. On the other hand, synthesis follows the flow of in conclusion and the moral of the story. In summary, these are the flow pattern adhered to by synthesis. So be guided accordingly. Usually, one reading reference will serve as the basis for answering multiple questions. So in effect, you could still meet the 30 seconds per item target. If that is not the case, speed reading will do the trick. Again, there's no substitute for reading practice. Battle tip number 17, Hawkeye, for logic and abstract reasoning. There are about 15 items under logic and abstract reasoning, and each item could be answered within 30 seconds, provided you had your prior practice. This category is indeed taxing both physically and mentally, so TYC recommends that you do at least light outdoor jogging thrice a week, a month before the exam period. This will provide your brain with the oxygen and the endurance needed to cover spatial exploration that's required under logic and abstract reasoning. You don't get dizzy while undertaking this type of questions. How to undertake this type of questions? There are two approaches you could do. The first approach is the direct approach. First, let your eye brush through the items, the patterns, from left to right, right to left, and then left to right again. Focus on the first pattern and the last pattern, and identify the item that progresses or regresses. That will serve as your first hunch. Now focus on the second indicated pattern and verify if your hunch of progressive or regressive item is following that pattern. If that is not the case, then look for another item that follows a regressive or a progressive pattern. And then again, use that as a basis of checking the actual trend the pattern is going into, the pattern is following. And from there, you could make your choice of which will fill or complete the entire pattern. Battle tip number 18, the power of estimation in numerical reasoning. There are about 15 items under numerical reasoning, and again, this section is a time eater, so you could allot 2 minutes per item under this category. Preparation: if you've not been into school for some time, and what you need to do is to grab a grade 6 mathematics book, okay, and work your review from there, okay. everything you need to know from fraction, word problems, probabilities, basic statistics, basic algebra, chemical mixture, and other etc. etc. That could be found within the grade 6 mathematics book. Okay. Now you need to understand the processes involved as well as the formula. Okay. Now exam proper. There are two ways to go about answering numerical reasoning. First is the accurate approach. You take note of the given and then take note of what's asked, and then using the formula that you and the all processes that you've reviewed prior. Use that a do a step by step processing. Okay, in order to come out with the accurate solution to the problem. Now, in case you're having problem, the problem is quite complicated and you're pressed for time. What you could do is to do the approximate approach. Okay. Now, in approximate approach, you read, of course, the reference, the paragraph prior to the question itself. Right now, take note of the given, and also take note of the asked, and just make an approximation. Okay, how much is the ask item as compared to the given? Is it half? Is it double? Is it 50%? Is it a third? A quarter? So you'd have an idea of how much you're looking for, how much of that particular item you're looking for. Okay. Now you go straight to the options, and then quickly cancel out those options that do not fit the range that you're looking for. Okay. Now that will narrow your choices. Okay. Now from your narrow choices, you could do a trial and error. If you still have the time, okay, you could do trial and error and go for substitution. Let's say, for example, you have a B. You're choosing between B or C. Take letter B, for instance, and use that to substitute. If it'll fit the equation, then that's good. You already found the correct answer. But again, that will be if you have the time. Now, if you don't have the time and you're pressed, usually what you would do is just jot down the answer based on your hunch, your first choice. Okay, then you put a return marker so that later on you could go back and do the trial and error and substitution. Okay. Now you're not just getting answer from thin air. Okay. What you're doing actually is doing intellectual guess. Okay. Approximation guess also. Now, that is it has basis as well because you're doing approximation. Okay. So don't lose courage in dealing with numerical reasoning. Battle tip number 19, points scavenging. After you've done answering all sections of the exam and you still have some time left, what you need to do first is to check how much time you really have. Check on the board the start time and the end time, and then check on your watch. Okay, now that you have an idea how much time you really have left, check first if you have answered all 170 questions, if you've completed them. Okay? Now, if they're complete, you've completely answered the 170 questions. Now it's time to go to the category where you have the most return marks. Okay? Now, do point scavenging and apply the time that you have. Now, after going through that particular category and you still have time, apply the remaining time onto the other sections or return markers that you have. It would be best to take a second take on the easier problems thereafter. Okay. Now, please allocate at least 5 minutes of your remaining time on checking the details of your paper if everything is in order. Now, after having checked on your paper and everything is in order, consult or check with the exam facilitator if you're complete with all your with the papers and the exam booklet that you have. They'll be asking for your signature, a photo, and then your thumb mark. Okay. Now, before leaving the place, again, check with the facilitator if you're complete. And then, given permission, you may now leave the place quietly. Okay? Alright, guys, my last words before you take the CSE professional exam: English readings, mental practice, physical exercise, nuts and leafies, prayers and grit to never give up. Those will be your tools in order to pass the CSE. Everything I've said here in this presentation is a mere guide based on my personal experience in taking and passing the CSE without review center and in one take. Thanks to God. Okay. Now, after all's been said and done, CSE is a one-man road which only you could take. Okay, so gather that confidence and believe in yourself. You can do it.